There are some tables in many textbooks, usually they're chapter 2, that are really good at summarizing the functions of the organic molecules, carbs, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. But the reality is that these four categories can have overlapping functions. So we have to narrow down the focus to the most important function of each one of these categories, the function that really separates them from each other. For carbohydrates, that means defining them as the primary energy source for your body. This is mainly because carbohydrates all have pretty simple structures compared to the other three categories of organic compounds. Yes, I know that there are things called complex carbs, but that's a nutritional term meant to compare carbs to carbs. Yeah. All carbohydrates are hydrophilic or water loving. This means that they're soluble in the water part of your blood called plasma. Carbohydrates are used by every single cell in your body, but the liver is really responsible for their anabolism and also for the management of any excess carbs that might come in that bowl of ice cream you like to have at night, or I like to have at night. I know the pancreas comes to mind first when it comes to carbohydrates, sugars, diabetes, but it's just a manager, not a doer. It's the pancreas that tells the liver what to do, but it is the liver that actually is the effector adjusting the carbohydrates in your blood plasma. Did you notice that the chemical formula for a carbohydrate is reflected in their name? Well, notice it now. Carbo, meaning carbon, and hydrate, meaning water. Every carbohydrate is just a water molecule with carbon tacked onto it. Monosaccharides are just monomers. These hexagon and pentagon shapes here are how we represent monosaccharide structures. At each point of these shapes, we assume that there is a carbon atom bonded to these other items that are indicated. We refer to monosaccharides as simple sugars in our diets. Glucose and fructose are really the most common monosaccharides in the human body. But galactose is a close third. In the most simplistic terms, whatever type of carbohydrate you consume, they get broken down to these, which are very easily used in cellular respiration to make ATP. Disaccharides are just two monosaccharides bonded together. So you might look at maltose here. That's it, right there. The two green glucose molecules bonded together and assume that it has twice as much energy as one glucose molecule. Untrue. It has just a little bit more than twice glucose because of the bond that binds these two monosaccharides together. That extra bond adds just a little bit more energy than the two glucose combined. That extra bond also makes disaccharides just a tad bit more difficult to break down during digestion. Speaking of digestion, I'm glad we have lactose here. Lactose, or the lactase enzyme breaks down lactose in dairy products. You either make it or you don't, the enzyme. You either have it or you don't. If you don't, you can't break down this bond. And then this disaccharide lactose passes through your digestive system unchanged. And when it hits the large intestine, from what I understand, that's not good. I do not know personally, but I hear it's not a pleasant experience. Considering that extra bond in a disaccharide, now think of how much extra energy could be in a molecule with tons of glucose monomers strung together, kind of like the picture over here on the right, well, kind of like either of these pictures here. Carbohydrate polymers like this, they're called polysaccharides, and they're usually referred to as complex carbs in a nutritional sense. You can consider them complex just because they're a lot bigger with a lot more bonds. But you could also say that they're more complex for your digestive system to break down. And therefore, it takes longer. Kind of like a time release capsule, slowly releasing glucose and releasing the energy in those bonds into your blood plasma as one by one of these monomers of glucose are torn off and the energy in those bonds is harvested by hydrolysis. Glycogen is the polysaccharide that you make in your liver when there is excess glucose floating around in your blood plasma. When you get hangry, not hungry, hangry. My husband gets angry. I have to make him a grilled cheese and shove it at him and say, shut up and eat this. When you get hangry, that glycogen is catabolized, broken down, and the glucose is released into your blood. When you eat animals, you are consuming their glycogen. When you eat plants, you're consuming their polysaccharide, which is called starch. So humans make glycogen, plants make starch, and your liver stores glycogen.